The Zarathi Empire considered themselves the apex predators of the galaxy. For 1,000 years, their fleets had swept across star systems. Their bioweapons had exterminated entire species, and their psychological warfare had broken the will of countless civilizations. When they encountered the humans of Earth, they expected another easy conquest. They had never encountered someone raised by a Russian witch. General Volkov stood barely 5 feet tall, but every alien intelligence officer who had studied her file experienced what humans called nightmares for weeks afterward. Born in the Siberian wilderness to parents who died in a research station accident, she had been found and raised by an entity the local villagers called Baba Yaga, a creature so old and terrifying that even hardened Russian soldiers crossed themselves when speaking her name. The Zarathi invasion began with their standard protocol, a demonstration of overwhelming force designed to shatter enemy morale. 300 warships materialized in Earth's solar system, their biohulls pulsing with malevolent life, weapons charged with planet-killing energy. Primitive humans, transmitted Admiral Zekthar, his mandibles clicking with amusement, surrender now, and we will grant you the mercy of slavery. Resist, and we will devour your world slowly. The response came from a single human transmission, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Zarathi. I am General Volkov of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered our territory uninvited. Leave now, or learn why my grandmother taught me to cook with bones. The alien admiral's laughter echoed across the command bridge. This was even easier than expected. The humans had sent a single small creature to negotiate their surrender. That creature was currently standing in the command center of Luna Base, her pale eyes reflecting the tactical displays like winter ice. Around her, technicians worked with the quiet efficiency of people who had learned not to make unnecessary noise around their commander. Grandmother, Katerina whispered to the shadows in the corner of the room, speaking in the old tongue, "They think we are prey." The shadows whispered back, and Katerina smiled, an expression that made hardened space marines unconsciously step backward. The Zarathi opened their assault with a volley of their infamous terror spores, biological weapons designed to drive entire populations insane with primal fear before the actual invasion began. The spores reached Earth's atmosphere and simply died. Every single one. Admiral Zekthar stared at his readings in confusion. The terror spores had never failed before. They were cultivated from the nightmares of 1,000 conquered species. Curious, Katerina's voice came through their communications again. Your little fear flowers remind me of the mushrooms that grew in grandmother's garden. Shall I tell you what she taught me to do with poisonous things? The human fleet materialized around the Zarathi armada like wolves emerging from forest. But these weren't the ships the alien scouts had reported. These vessels moved wrong, their hulls seeming to shift and flow in ways that hurt to perceive directly. Weapon signatures appeared on sensors that shouldn't have been possible with human technology. Impossible, Zekthar said. Our intelligence reports showed primitive fusion drives and kinetic weapons. Intelligence reports, Katerina replied conversationally, don't account for everything. For instance, they probably didn't mention that my grandmother taught me recipes that could turn starlight into poison, or how to weave nightmares into steel. The battle that followed defied every principle of conventional warfare. Human ships phased through solid matter. Weapons fired projectiles that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and Zarathi bioships found their own weapons turning against them as if possessed by malevolent spirits. But the true horror began when General Volkov's flagship approached the Zarathi command vessel. The alien hull, bred from living nightmare coral and considered impenetrable, began to wither and crack as the human ship drew near. You see, Katerina's voice now carried through the Zarathi ship's internal systems despite all communications being severed. Grandmother always said the most important lesson was this. There are older hungers in the universe than yours. Darker things than your little empire has ever imagined. Admiral Zekthar watched in growing terror as his crew began to age rapidly, their bio-enhanced bodies withering like flowers touched by winter frost. What are you? He gasped into his communicator. I'm the child who learned to bake bread with grandmother's special flour, Katerina replied. I'm the student who was taught to tend a garden where nothing natural grows. I am what happens when humanity's oldest stories are more than mere folklore. The Zarathi Empire's thousand-year reign ended in 7 hours. Their surviving ships fled into deep space, broadcasting warnings that would keep alien civilizations away from Sol System for generations. Back on Earth, General Volkov returned to her grandmother's cottage in the Siberian woods, where something ancient and terrible waited by the fireplace, proud of how well her lessons had been learned.